Whether it's squads of 3, 4, or in the case of Rainbow Six Siege, 5, there comes a time when there's one extra player in your party. Normally this leads to awkward silences, but there is an unpopular alternative. Host a custom game. Now Siege's customization is limited. Options use columns rather than sliders, character modifiers only affect sprint, leaning, and health. You can't even swap playlists within a lobby. You've got to leave, select the playlist, and rehost, which if you do too quickly is suspended for 5 minutes. It's obvious custom games were an afterthought and only exist today for hosting Pro League matches, as most of what little has been added to it over 4 years pertains to it. And that's fair. Siege's goal these days is to be a competitive shooter, and regardless of the game's original intent, that's a video for another time, it's in Ubisoft's best interest, and they wouldn't see a worthy investment in adding wackier options only a fraction of the player base will use to create modes the game isn't built for. Right? Thing is, I grew up with the opposite, a time where aspirations of filling stadiums for your game's best players didn't exist. Smash Bros. And Halo weren't made to be what we now define as competitive, and yet, through tweaked settings edited by the community, helped to establish esports. And in the case of Halo, those same options and modifiers were used to create other game modes the developers never conceived, like zombies, Tower of Power, and boxing. So while Siege's limited customization makes it challenging to create specialized modes, it's not impossible. Now, many have heard, seen, or played Michael Myers on House, with Sledge being our closest analog for the silent serial killer. And don't get me wrong, it is fun.
Hey Matt, look what I brought for you.
Hey, fuck off! No, he missed!
Gotcha.
There's something thematic about Sledge breaking open walls that gamifies horror film tropes into an entertaining mode. But there are a few problems. The delay on Sledge's hammer combined with sprint actually makes things quite difficult for the killer who can be easily outmaneuvered. The solution would seem to be banning sprint and 3-speed operators along with reinforced walls and ladders. But without the speed, there lacks a genuine panic in the mode, keeping it from combining excitement with the comedy. Which leads us to Spooky Tower is Mike Myers flipped, with a team of attackers venturing into the terrifying Defender's lair. And deciding which Defender to use was easy when one of them has a coveted nickname of Spook Bitch. The basic framework and rules are the same as Mike Myers. Everybody hides or runs from Caveira, who must kill them via interrogation in place of a sledgehammer until there's a lone survivor permitted to knife back, with some additional layers. Firstly, the attackers have a minute to traverse the map without Caveira leaving her room. This gives them time to find a hiding spot or learn the fastest routes without the Brazilian on their tail, unless they accidentally run into Caveira's personal space, who's then allowed to roam early. And as she's supposed to kill each person by interrogation, there's only one way to do that without using the trank gun, activating the silent step ability and punching them, which originally carried some weight. Because while silent step helps you get the drop on people, should you empty the full meter, a kill could slip from your grasp. Unless you kill the person anyways, to which you can keep playing, but the attackers are allowed to open fire. Although Siege's recent changes to Caveira and Vigil's abilities with the introduction of Knock have made this far less likely to occur, as fully recharging the ability is no longer required. So perhaps a gentleman's agreement should be made to use Silent Step as it was originally made, because unlike Mike Myers, it adds a sliver of tension to whoever's playing Caveira, though it's still far more intense to be running from her. Trying to outwit the pursuer at top speed while constantly hearing her stomping feet inching closer to you is exciting, and the longer a chase proceeds, the more hilarious it is for spectators.
You know, fuck this. Fuck this. I don't care anymore.
It's a frustrating level in Siege's framework, but Tower's the best map I've played for this mode, with the thematic entrance, variety of lighting, and large layout giving both Caveira and her victims lots of options. And the character's perfectly built for the mode, not just in appearance but in her design. The forced interrogations give everyone a brief escape window when someone dies, while simultaneously marking their location. She can open walls with shotgun and impacts, and silence herself. While there's room for modifiers that enhance the mode further, like infinite impacts for opening walls, most of this mode is what's already possible within the game, just under a new framework, hinting at Siege's potential for gameplay beyond its competitive aspirations. But you can stretch those aspirations even further. I honestly have zero recollection of how this mode came to be. having gone through various rules, characters, routes, and names, but the closest reference is Death Run in Gary's mod, where runners have to survive a treacherous course with various things enemy players can pull against them. Like Spooky Tower, Death Run in Siege is a 1v5 game mode with a simple but tough objective. Survive a lap of canal starting from construction site with one defender peppering your squad with damage to initiate a final battle on the rooftop. Most are probably thinking this is easy, just pick 3 speed operators and serpentine around. But there's a catch. Attackers must have a Montang leading the charge, with no teammates permitted to pass him. Players are only allowed to go as far as their leader can, meaning a semblance of teamwork's required to survive the journey. Smokes and flashbangs are essential to giving your team an escape window during the back alley sector where everyone's most exposed. Now, there are a few handicaps. 1. Everyone has 200 HP. 2. The defender can't aim down sights or full auto. And 3. Montang can sprint when it's safe to do so. And the challenge varies on which defender is used. We've experimented with characters and weapons like Valkyrie for the novelty of hip-firing a Desert Eagle. Overall though, the P90 is the most balanced weapon for the mode, with a large hipfire spread and light damage. But as hinted, it's more thematic to run up against the Lord's gunfire, D-Day style. The funniest part of the mode is the final door, almost guaranteed to force matches into a 1v1 due to exposure while punching the barricade.
Oh god.
How many fucking breaks does that take? Oh my god.
And unlike Spooky Tower, which can encompass 10-minute rounds, death runs are bite-sized with carnage from start to finish. Even when you're a good distance from the defender, there's the off chance one stray bullet will instantly kill you, making every push potentially be your last. Despite being completely over the top, there is teamwork, cooperation, and desperation throughout. The brevity makes it easy to replay, and immediately recall the hilarity that ensued. Though those two qualities are shared with our last example. The idea began with dreams of a Siege Instagib mode, where 90-second 3v3 rounds on small maps are run with Boss G's slug shotguns. But with Vigil and Dokkaebi being the only characters who have this persuader, a compromise was made. 90-second rounds on small maps, shotguns only, with a quarter HP. As a result, it might be called Speed Siege, but it could really be called Stupid Siege.
Oh, wait, that's a...
You saw him shoot it once!
Perhaps it's possible to tweak this mode into a genuinely competitive small-scale bite-sized version of Siege, as I have seen people setting up 2v2 sessions, but considering its aspirations, we deliberately set it on total trash heaps that led to pure chaos.
Were you just waiting there?
Just like Instagib and other games though, this mode levels the playing field across map balance, operators, or skill level, as shotguns don't need pinpoint accuracy, headshots aren't deliberate, and soft cover offers even less protection than normal.
What the?
Here, let me even the odds.
Oh, wait!
Oh, geez, thank you.
I fucking watched that video.
It's easily the roughest of all the modes yet. There isn't an official rule set in terms of rounds, timers, or weapons. 90-second shotguns is as detailed as we ever got, even playing variants like pistols only or LMGs being required to hipfire mag dump. So I'll come up with one on the spot. Attack and defend recruits using pump-action shotguns with 90-second rounds, best of 5, 25 health, 200 friendly fire, hostage, gadgets allowed. Have fun.
Be advised, Op 4
Why am I shooting when I'm not even done?
You killed both in one shot?
But I know what many of you are thinking. 3v3 small map Boss G's no prep 90-second rounds? That's exactly what the recent Showdown event was. And that is what inspired this video. It's no surprise I immensely enjoyed Showdown, as it realizes the idea many had for years. It didn't replace Siege nor change its core, but accompanied it. Showdown can serve as a warm-up, a break, a distraction, or just a unique experience that's possible within Siege's mechanical depth, should the framework be provided. But as it currently stands, only Ubisoft's developers are capable of making that happen, which, having grown up with Halo, Smash Brothers, and Counter-Strike, I have to ask, why? Why can't players give everybody a Boss G, disable prep timers, or limit their equipment? Isn't it strange that community members are welcome to express themselves through artwork, comics, writing, cosplay, competitions, shows, and videos, but are forbidden from all but the game's most basic settings? I understand optimizing matchmaking to 3 playlists. You don't want your community to be split up. I understand having minimal changes among said playlists. Consistency is important in a PvP game. But why can't the sandbox explode in private sessions? You've destroyed offices with infinite ammo and test builds. Why not allow AA-12s with endless magazines? Why can't we make players invisible? Your engine's clearly capable of it. Siege is universally praised for its depth in level design, base mechanics, and operator utility, and I can't help but imagine how many unique experiences could be made with these pillars if players were capable of manipulating the framework around them. I'm picturing Jackal tracking invisible players by their footsteps, explosives only or unlimited operators, rearranging hostage into 2 teams of attackers in a race to kill them first. And despite my emphasis on creating comedy within Siege's competitive environment for the glorious irony of it all, I strongly believe giving players access to this game's sandbox and settings would greatly benefit the competitive community. How much better would it be if instead of writing blog posts about the latest poorly netcoded test build that doesn't address a player's overwhelming list of balancing issues regarding weapons, abilities, and characters, they were just able to experiment on their own? You could have thousands of people swapping weapons with characters, adjusting ability timers, tweaking equipment effects. All the things Ubisoft can only do so much of with its limited number of staff and types of players within the team. Unless the game's construction makes it impossible to swap weapons between characters out of the box, or adjust their stats without manually updating the build, I don't see a downside to this request. Though I do see why it couldn't happen. For one thing, it's no secret this game is held together with spit and Kleenex, with every seasonal update bringing its own list of internal and external issues, which I'm sure would only make its developers more hesitant to open the floodgates, likely prone to finding all new and exciting ways of breaking this game. For another, the UI needs a total rework to attract more than weirdos like me to make modes. Playlist limits would need to be increased from 5, columns have to be reduced in size, and screen space needs to be increased. But I imagine the developers who could do that need to take priority of new operators and gadgets. And rather cynically, I doubt Ubisoft's number crunchers see more profit in a game's community tweaking what they love over adding new content for the game they love that can be monetized. Siege has become the company's biggest and most consistent revenue stream, meaning each major update must bring something to be bought. But with the enjoyment people already had with these seasonal events, and the successes other games have had when giving players options, some modes even spawning their own subsectors of the community, there's just too much potential to write off. Unless it's technically impossible without damaging the game's core construction, I believe there's a road that can be paved steadily over time. Think of starting with basic options like unlocking what's already available in custom games, to expanding them, adding abstract modifiers, and perhaps eventually customizing beyond the sandbox itself. People enjoy Siege in so many ways, from the highest of competition to the silliest of smurfs, the most optimized setups to the most obtuse, and it would be wonderful for these people to be able to express that level of passion, experimentation, and creativity through the game itself. Is Ray a boomer? Well, I do hate video games. Sarcastic or analytical questions? It's mostly sarcasm. Unforgettable game endings. I keep forgetting Portal 2 is almost 10 years old because I still remember its conclusion like I had just finished it. Obviously, I can't discuss it as not to spoil for anyone who hasn't played, but it is simply perfection. Soma's was damn good as well. Why didn't you mention Spec Ops: The Line in your E3 video? Genuinely, it's because I've referenced the game to the point of becoming a meme, though I guess by that logic I shouldn't have been mentioning Halo in this one. Originally, I was planning to use Spec Ops as an example of the problem with honestly marketing a video game, because how do you honestly market Spec Ops accurately? Especially when the trailer that was most representative of the game's tone was widely panned. What's the best piece of paid DLC that got you the most bang for your buck? Perhaps not the most value, but one of the most memorable was absolutely Horizon 3 Hot Wheels. It was such a well-realized experience, I'm not sure if Forza can ever hope to top it. And with the mixed reception of Horizon 4's LEGO expansion, that feeling has only been confirmed so far. Why do you have such an ego? The memes. Do you miss the old Raycevick? Nope.